quick. I don't like that. I guess I got to keep it over there. All right. Where's this link at? Share. Copy that link. Okay. All right, I'm live. Sent that out to the league chat. All right, let's see. 30 seconds in. I'll give it like another 15 seconds. See if we can get anybody in here live. Let's see, as I check that thumbnail. I did have the thumbnail, right? Let's see. How's that looking? I feel like it's going to be a no viewer type of night. That's all right. All right, we got somebody here. What's up, chat? How we going? How we doing? All right. Let's get started then. As always, we are brought to you by Sundog Multimedia. Sundog is an online communication and social media company. What started as a personal tool has since evolved into something much bigger, allowing users to communicate, research, and discover things that impact their lives and daily decisions. Sundog will collaborate with you to build and execute a modern yet nimble social media strategy utilizing innovative and traditional media principles. Sundog is also a proud supporter of the Stop Soldier Suicide Foundation. You can follow them on Instagram at sundog_multimedia. That is Instagram at sundog_multimedia. Brains, brawn, and true professionalism. That's easy peasy moving and service. Muscle for hire, moving assembly, errands. You name it, they will do it. Easy peasy is a multi-service team. If you need something, just ask. All right. Mock draft. I believe this is 3.0. If I titled it wrong, my apologies. Could be 4.0. I believe this is 3.0. I'll be honest. I mean, first round at least, I don't expect too much to change. I think there's one major change that I want to make. You could probably figure that out, and you're going to find out pretty early on in this mock draft. But for the most part, I mean, I really do think that the 12 players, I'd say we're at least 10 or 11 that I feel almost certain will be the first rounders. And then, of course, the order doesn't matter all too much just because it's mostly McMorrow making these picks. But there is some strategy involved, and I've talked about that a couple times while doing these mock drafts, just because of who's picking, right? You got 3 different sets of McMorrow picks. You got Amaral picking on the 4th spot. You got Wallace currently picking on the 8th spot. Of course, Bowen is currently picking 12th, and McMorrow does have another pick, the 2nd and the 5th pick of the second round. So there is still some strategy involved, but for the most part, McMorrow can kind of go out and get whatever he wants. But I do want to make a change to the strategy. I know I've kind of been trying to project my own thoughts and maybe give McMorrow some ideas. At the end of the day, it's his draft, it's his team. I don't really care all too much about what exactly he does, but at the same time, I got the show. I have opinions. I like my opinions, so I want to make those heard. And if he respects them and he thinks that they're good ideas, then good for him. He can go ahead and use them to his advantage, in my opinion. But before we get started on the actual draft, I do want to talk about one thing that's been brought to my attention. I've been asked to perform 2 wellness checks on teams in this league. Do I want to name names? No, I love my mom, and she always said, to be charitable with this stuff. So I'm not going to name the names of who's calling these teams out. But I will say the first team that needs to be called out. And when it was brought to my attention, I did say, you know what, I feel where you're coming from because I've kind of felt it with this team as well. The Cucks. I mean, what's going on with the Cucks here? They got 3 people on this team. Feels like you can't even get a hold of one of them. I made my opinions known about their trade that they made when they got absolutely destroyed by Bowen in that trade. That's not even one, I'm a big wait and see guy. That's not even a trade I necessarily need to wait and see the results for. What was it? It was the Terry McLaurin for the 12th overall pick and Jacoby Myers. I mean, come on, fellas. What are we doing here? But, everybody takes their lumps in this league. It's all part of the experience. Everybody's been on the side of, the good side of a trade and the bad side of a trade. It's happened to everybody, so that's just how it goes. Okay, so I'm not going to necessarily hold that against them. I'm not trying to reopen those wounds, but I will say, I mean, part of me was mad about that trade because I felt like one, I was trying to get that 12th pick myself. I felt like I made a better offer to them, right? I offered Kittle. I was not asking for the additional Jacoby Myers on top of all that stuff. But I, of course, made the comparison between Kittle and McLaurin, both talking age and then positional value and just fantasy points. I'm pretty sure Kittle was putting up almost the same amount of points per week. But, that's neither here. I'm not here to talk about that trade. I am here to talk about the Cucks because when I was talking to the Cucks for that deal, I wasn't talking to them at all. I had spoken to Cristaldi earlier that morning, but I had to work through Simcoe, Ryan Simcoe, who's not part of that team. John Simcoe is one of the co-owners on that team. I was not talking to him. I was talking to Ryan Simcoe trying to negotiate this trade while I'm driving down to New Jersey. And, I'm not a text and drive guy. I'm not here to incriminate myself, but I was going against my principles there, trying to get this deal done. And, of course, I put my life on the line. I didn't even get anything out of it. So, but I'm not mad. I'm not mad about that trade. But I will say, one team brought it to my attention. I kind of agreed with it from my own personal anecdote that I just shared. And it does sound like for a team that has 3 owners, like I said, you can't get a hold of a single one of them. So, hey, it's a year-round league, but, people operate at their own pace. I just want to make sure that they're okay. They're new to the league. Maybe they got logged out of the app. They don't know how to get back in, but it's okay. It's okay. Another one that I want to bring up, and again, I'm not going to name names of who's bringing this to my attention. I think that would put a big zit on the face of this league. But, I do want to check in on the most athletic Suns as well. What's good with you guys? What's going on? Feels like we do this every year. Sometimes I feel like they kind of live in their own world where, I think Angelo and Sam, I think they talk a bunch about their team. It just seems like they never bring that energy to the league itself. I mean, I never see them in the league chat. I know Sam runs his own league, non-dynasty, so I'm not going to, cause a whole scene with that. Angelo, he's more active in that chat when some kid, the guy that comes in last place, is pretending to fulfill the last place punishment and eat a bunch of hot dogs. If you saw the text, you'd know it's fucking bullshit. That guy was never eating all those hot dogs. And also he was doing it like without bread and stuff like that, which is just ridiculous. That is come on, have some standards, fellas, with these punishments. What are we doing? But I just want to make sure that the Suns are okay as well. I just want to reach out. I just want to see, because I know that, they like to talk about, maybe we need to do this, maybe we need to do that. I think they get a little lost with their position in the league and all that. They think that they're much better than they really are. And, they continue to fall short, but they don't see that as a reason to try and improve. But, like I said, I don't want to name names and throw the reporting team under the bus. But I do just want to make sure that both the Cucks and the Suns are all right. And, if you guys do watch this, feel free to drop into the league chat and say something. It's okay to show some signs of life. But all right, let's get to the mock draft. Hold on, let me just check. All right. All right, let's see. Okay. I'm pulling up my notes. I'm sorry. All right. Let me share my screen. Okay, wait. Oh, shit. Hold on. All right. We're good. I think we're good here. Yeah, looks like it. Let me get this out of the way. Okay. All right. I think I'm going to do the first 2 rounds here. I don't want to cut anything too short. I feel like I can sort of breeze through this a little bit. All right, let's do it. Okay. I'm not going to do the Ash and Ginty thing. Like I said last time, it would be a funny bit if McMorrow wants to do that. Oh, I picked him at 3, whatever. That's his prerogative there. But okay, we're going to go with Ash and Ginty here. To me, that's just a no-brainer. To me, he's far and away the best draft. He's the most talented. It's the same thing like when Bijan Robinson was in his draft, and like Saquon Barkley. I don't think a lot of us were playing dynasty back then, but I was there. I was there for it. Saquon Barkley was the first overall pick as well. Don't think too hard, okay? I get it. A lot of people want to address their team needs when they go into this stuff. First of all, McMorrow, it's a little bit different. He has needs at every single position, but regardless, I think that you'd be dumb if you needed quarterback, you needed running back, all that stuff, and this was your only pick. I think that you'd be dumb to pass over a guy like Ashton Ginty just to go for a quarterback because you need that. And I think that kind of applies in the NFL draft as well. You should try and address your team needs through free agency. Go out and get those guys. And then you really, the NFL draft, you should be going just best player available. And then, of course, the tiebreaker can be need. If you have your quarterback and the quarterback's the best player, then one, you should be looking to trade back. But two, of course, you wouldn't take a quarterback there because you already have one. But, it's a little bit different in Dynasty. You need positional depth and all that stuff. But just go Ashton Ginty here. Don't think too much. You're not going to regret it. I do feel like he's bust-proof. And I'm not saying that as some reverse jinx type of shit. Or I guess that would just be a normal jinx. But just take the kid. Whatever. This is where I want to get a little bit different, all right? Because before I was having McMorrow go double running back and a receiver here. Of course, if you have watched my earlier streams, you'd know that I have him going quarterback way later because I think he can get away with that. I'm changing it up here. The big change that I'm making right now is I'm going to consider Tyler Hunter a wide receiver. I mean, I've seen the breakdown. Matthew Harmon, I don't know if he goes by Matt or Matthew. He seems like a Matthew guy. But he released his reception perception, and that didn't necessarily teach me anything because I've been I've been starting to lean this direction, but it is good for confirmation, right? Matt Harmon, I think, is a good guy when it comes to he's not really trying to tell you anything. He's more providing you with the information, and you can draw your own conclusions from it. I like that kind of stuff. I don't need a guy to tell me, do this, do that. I don't like those types of football and fantasy experts. I want guys that allow me to come to my own conclusions. But Travis Hunter is an unbelievable receiver. I think he's a better receiver than he is a cornerback. And at first I was thinking, well, you can always have him be more full-time cornerback and then sub him in for different offensive packages, almost like we've seen the Pats do with Marcus Jones in the past. But was it Marcus Jones? There were two Joneses. Yes, it was Marcus Jones. Jack Jones was the other one. Marcus Jones, like he's done in the past, but Travis Hunter's obviously a million times the talent that Marcus Jones is. But also, I think the big thing that it's going to come down to, and I know that he got shit for saying he's like the Shohei Ohtani of football, which, first of all, he is. He plays on both sides of the ball. But a bunch of hardos, they get pissed off. Oh, it's way harder to be what Ohtani is. Whatever, okay? You understand what he's saying. Why are we fucking relax, okay? Who else is doing what Travis Hunter's doing? But, I mean, look at it, right? Jamar Chase, he just reset the market in the wide receiver market, making over $40 million. What's his name? Derek Stingley. He just reset the cornerback market by a pretty wide margin. And he's making at least $10 million a year less than Jamar Chase is. So the money is always going to be there for the receivers. I think that if Travis Hunter is smart, and I think he is, especially with the fact that he has Deion Sanders in his corner, but he knows that, and he knows to chase after the money. And of course, if he's elite on both sides, or even if he's really good on one, really good on both sides, doesn't even necessarily have to be elite. That's going to get him more money anyways. But being a primary receiver is going to, it's like a fail-safe to kind of fall into the most money. So right now, I'm going to treat Travis Hunter as maybe not necessarily a full-time receiver, but even if he's 80% receiver, he's by far the best receiver in this draft. I think that he's 2 tiers above, even Tet McMillan, who, I do think highly of, but I feel like Tet McMillan's ceiling isn't necessarily there, or maybe the ceiling is there, but I feel like it's a little bit loftier of a goal than it is for a guy like Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter's fucking incredible. I don't care if he goes to the Giants with Malik Neighbors. They're both just going to be insane. If he goes to the Browns, he's going to take over. I would love to see him on the Pats. I'm becoming less and less optimistic about that, though. Even I feel like the Pats are starting to feel that way. So, we're going to have Amaral and Frank in the on the show this week, and we're going to talk our rookie rankings, but we're also going to talk a little Pats draft, I think, as well, because I think we actually have 3 sort of different views on all that stuff. So I think it'll be good to have us kind of mix it up. But Travis Hunter, that's wide receiver 1. As long as you think he's going to be wide receiver. I'm tired of pretending like we don't know and kind of forcing him to fall down the board. McMorrow, if you're listening, man, take him as your first receiver, okay? Because also it's not going to matter, because this is where I'm changing up the strategy as well. I think he actually has to go double receiver here. And I like Ibuka. I like Luther Burden. I'm still not totally sure on how to pronounce if it's Burden or Burden, but I like them both. But I was kind of preaching the whole take the two running backs. I like Omari on Hampton. I think is going to be very good. But this running back class is incredibly deep. And I do look at it as when there's that much depth, you kind of can sit back for a second and okay, Hampton might be unbelievable, but I think a lot of these guys, right? When you look at those classes where I kind of conflate all of them now, so I'm not even going to try. But like when there was like the Leonard Fournette and Nick Chubb and whatever. I forget who was in one class, but you guys get my point. When there are those like really deep running back classes where we look back and there's like 2 or 3 of them in the last like 15 years, but we're like, holy shit, like these guys are going in the 3rd round and all that. I think that you can afford to miss out on one of them, especially when you're getting Ginty. I think that there are 2 clear-cut top receivers. There's Travis Hunter, of course, and there's Tet McMillan. McMorrow, he already has Bucky Irving, who appears to be really good. That's a bad take on my end from last year. I was not high on Bucky Irving at all. He didn't test well. I wasn't totally impressed with him at Oregon, and he came in and he tore it up in the fantasy world once he got the more of a starting job with the Bucks. But Josh Downs is his only wide receiver, I think. Is that true? Let me pull that back up. Of course, this goddamn app. Where is this bastard? All right. Yeah, Josh Downs, and then like maybe Jalen McMillan, but McMillan's kind of had a bad break with Chris Godwin coming back. So I think that the heavier need right now, because of all these picks that he has after, I think he can afford, like I said, to wait on Omari and Hampton. I think you got to go Tet McMillan here. That was your wide receiver one before we were talking about Travis Hunter. Just go with the receivers here. And, if Amaral does go running back here, then you can sort of afford to miss out. But also, I had Amaral taking McMillan with this 4th pick, right? Because Amaral, he has a little bit of a need of both. But now that he's off the board, I'm going to have Amaral go running back here. He has he has Chase Brown. He has Tyrone Tracy. Excuse me, Jesus. I had that Trader Ming orange chicken. It's starting to come up a little bit now. But I'm not, running backs, of course, they have the shortest shelf life, or at least the least bankable shelf life. But Chase Brown was a late round pick. He did get hurt late last year. It was only a sprained ankle, so I'm not going to, freak out over that. But, we kind of see it with these late round guys. And a lot of times it's the undrafted guys. It's the Phillip Lindsays. It's the James Robinsons. But who's the other one? Isaiah Pacheco. I don't think he was undrafted. But regardless, the day 3, the undrafted guys, once they get hurt, their body starts to break down a little bit. They start to lose it. They can get replaced really fast. I'm not sure that Pacheco is going to be the starting running back, when he is fully healthy. Of course, Kareem Hunt was kind of leading that even when he returned last year. But Pacheco, he came back pretty fast. The Chiefs didn't have time to try and reacclimate him. They were trying to win the Super Bowl. So I'm not going to put a ton of stock into that, but it is one of those things where I'm noticing it a little bit, and I do feel like he's going to start to fall out of favor. And I wouldn't put it past the Chiefs if they have an opportunity to get one of these running backs, because I don't think any of these teams really, besides a select few like the Eagles and I don't know, like the Ravens and shit like that, then, they maybe don't need to be going after one of these running backs. But, I want the Pats to take a day 2 running back bad. Stevenson, he's okay. He's good at best. He does have the fumbling issue. I think it's a big problem that he can't seem to put together a full season, whether that's actually missing games or just kind of starting to break down in the middle or at the end of the year. He can't put together a full 17. We are not in a position to say we're all set at running back. I think that we should be targeting in this running back class, trying to get one of these guys. But I think Amaral should do the same, right? Because Tyrone Tracy, he was a day 3 guy. Chase Brown, a day 3 guy. Rico Dowdle, I actually think he's going to be serviceable in Carolina, but you're not going to be able to rely on him as a starter. I mean, he's going to be splitting carries, and it's not going to be a change of pace. It's more going to be when Chuba Hubbard needs a quick blow and he needs to get off the sideline. They can just put in Rico Dowdle and kind of have him do the same thing, but that's still Chuba's backfield. So barring an injury, I'm not relying on Rico Dowdle to be a consistent starting option. Tyjae Spears, I'm just not high on in general. But I think Amaral needs running back a little bit more than he does wide receiver. He's already got Malik Neighbors. He's got Ayuk. Does he have anybody else that's interesting? I mean, A.D. Mitchell, Keon Coleman, Romeo Dobbs, Tank Dell, probably going to retire early. But yeah, he can kind of circle back and maybe grab a wide receiver later on. But I think that running back is the pick here. I'm going to go Hampton. Hampton still seems like the RB2 in this class. He seems like he's going to be a round pick as well. We'll see with those Ohio State guys. I'll get to them in a second. But yeah, okay. I'm going to go with Amaral. Take the running back. You got Chase Brown, who was unbelievable once he took the job from Zach Moss last year. Now you got Amarion Hampton. Now you don't have to rely on a guy like Tyrone Tracy as much. And then, of course, Rico Dowdle as well. So try and solidify those top two spots. I think Hampton will become your best, your at least most talented. Chase Brown might still get it with the usage, but Hampton will be by far your most talented running back. So kind of what I was saying about the Pats, it's not like he's set at running back, so we shouldn't feel content with that. I think that he can get by with the wide receivers for now. I think running back is the wiser pick here. But now we're back to McMorrow. This is where he has to go on that run and just address those positions of need before it gets to Wallace. Because if you do leave one of those guys hanging out there, that could be, a huge trade spot for him where somebody might want to move up and snag a guy. So don't play with your food here. Get the guys that you have to get. For me, that's Cam Ward, who he should be, in my opinion, the only quarterback to go in like the top 15, I guess top 22. I could see the Steelers being a sneaky quarterback team, but I don't know. I'm not huge on Shedeur personally. And then, Jackson Dart, at cost, if you get him, late enough in the draft, I think he could be a solid rookie pick. But I'm not looking to reach for him here. Again, that's kind of like what I was saying. If you need a quarterback, don't just take a quarterback because of that. You got to take the best players here. So Cam Ward, he's definitely the. Well, I got no fucking hide thing on this. Okay, you guys can't see the tab at the top. All right, all right. Go with Cam Ward. Take Tyler Warren, tight end, and then. Running back, you got to be running back here. Take your second running back, pair him with Ginty and Bucky Irving. You can feel kind of safe about that stable, especially because you have these next three picks, or you can take another one as well. I'm gonna go with Henderson. I think that Henderson is going to end up being the higher ranked one. I see a lot of people mocking Ginty to the Raiders, and I get it. They do need a running back. It feels almost certain that they're going to take one in the first two rounds. I feel like people are overlooking the fact that Chip Kelly is the OC in Vegas right now, and he has two of his running backs in this draft. So I don't know if it's going to be worth it for them to use that 6th overall pick on Ginty when they could just probably take one in the second round with their natural second rounder, or if they feel like the guy's going to go off the board, they can try and trade up and go get one of those guys. But I feel like Chip Kelly's going to be more interested in that. I feel like he's going to want to get one of his guys, despite the fact that Ginty is great and, put up one of the greatest running back seasons ever. I just feel like we're overlooking that aspect. So I feel like Henderson could be a guy that flies up the board. And we see that happen all the time, right? Somebody goes in the late first round, they go to a better team, or, maybe they go, even if it's in the second round, but they end up in a more, sexier spot, they can kind of shoot up over the guys that maybe get taken ahead of them. And sometimes that can be overthinking it, but we already got Hampton off the board. I think Henderson is going to be the third running back off the board regardless. So it fits here. It checks out. But I think that's the move for McMorrow. So now he's got a quarterback. He's got a tight end. He's got two running backs to already go with Bucky Irving. He's got Hunter. He's got McMillan. Josh Downs now becomes his probable wide receiver 3. We're starting to build a good lineup here, right? Now we move on to Wallace. What does Wallace need? I mean, Mike Bowen, the hell are you talking about? Wallace. This is where it's tough, right? Because, he's got Nico Collins, who I will say, and I always take it on the chin when it comes to trading him away for legit dirt. Nobody was more right on him than me. I still want my flowers on that. I fucked up. Whatever. But part of why I wanted to trade him away that season that I did was because I was worried that he wasn't going to break out in the way that he did. I wasn't a believer in C.J. Stroud. I feel like C.J. Stroud's trying to, give me a little credit after last year that he had. But for the record, Nico Collins, he's not played a full 17 yet. He hasn't even played a full 16. If you want to, exclude a week 7 or a week 18 game. He missed 10 games his sophomore year. He missed 2 last year, or 2 in 2023. missed 5 games last year. That was part of my concern. I was scared that he wasn't going to break out. He's like a walking foot and calf injury. And, he has not necessarily done much to shake that reputation. Of course, he went on to become like one of the most dangerous downfield threats in the league, but whatever. Yeah, no, Mikey, I agree with you. I agree. I think that could be interesting. I did see, I think it was Coach Speak Index. They tweeted out, I think it was their GM. I'm not quite sure who their GM is, but I'm pretty sure it was a guy from their front office saying that they are going to be looking running back in this draft. So Hampton, he does seem like a fit based on them signing Evan Ingram. I know a lot of people had them taking Tyler Warren or Colston Loveland. It seems like they're kind of ruling that out by going out and signing Evan Ingram, and they're resigning to the fact that they're not going to have one of those top tight ends. But I feel like running back could be the pick for them there. I would still, I don't know how, I guess it would have to be a trade, but I would still love to see Alvin Kamara end up there. I just think that would be kind of funny and, a little fun, if he could go there and kind of play that role that he played. And Sean Payton's obviously been looking for it, but fuck it. I mean, Evan Ingram, they're talking about him as that Joker role that Peyton's obsessed with. I'm pretty hyped about that. But yeah, I mean, I think that Wallace, he sneaky does have. Yeah, I like that too. I do feel like that's the fit, Loveland to LA. But Wallace, I think he could address both running back and wide receiver here. I feel like running back's the move, though. I mean, we'll see how the wide receivers shake out. If Egbuka, if he ends up in like a pretty interesting spot, especially if he becomes a first round pick, that really becomes something. I think Luther, I think he is a guy that it depends. It's kind of like I was saying last year when it came to Worthy and Malachi Corley, where I could see it going either way with them depending on the team that they end up on. Of course, we saw it with Worthy where he ended up in like the perfect situation, and then we saw what he ended up being by the end of the year. And then we kind of saw it with Corley where he went to a pretty shitty situation, and he had an interesting opportunity as the wide receiver 2 there with Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball, but that team was just an absolute dumpster fire. So with guys like that who are yak guys that can create, it could be a little iffy when it comes to what type of scheme they end up in and all that stuff. But yeah, I don't know if the wide receivers, like I said, you got to go best player available in these situations. I just rank these running backs so highly. So I think it's still a running back here. So I'm going to go, I think I'm just going to kind of go with the consensus right now. I'm going to have Judkins as the RB4 here. He's got Henry. He's got James Cook. Both guys were great last year. I would be a little worried about James Cook regression just because he was, carried so heavily by those touchdowns, which is quite an outlier compared to what we've seen in his career so far. But Ken Walker, he's prone to miss a bunch of time too. Pacheco, I said what I said about him. And then, that's kind of where it stops. I mean, of course, he does have Zach Charbonnet for the handcuff with Ken Walker. But, he's not totally deep there at running back. He could definitely use a fourth one to plug into that final flex spot. So I think running back's the play here. We'll see how it shakes out. If one of those wide receivers does shoot up the board, but I'm gonna go with that for now. Moving on to McMorrow's last pod of picks in this first round. So what? Okay, he's got 3 backs on his roster. He's got we'll call it 3 wide receivers. I like Josh Downs a lot. I was big on him personally in the draft. Alex Aurori, I see you in the chat. I hope you remember the conversation we had at that Pats game when he was like my sneaky prospect that I would love to see the Pats go after and get. I'm still going to hold out hope for that because that was Drake May's guy at UNC. So maybe when he hits free agency, if he ever does, he can come and play with us. That would be pretty nice. But anyways, McMorrow now, right? He can kind of do whatever he wants. That's where it depends, right? Does he want to go quarterback here? I don't know. I think right now we should get another running back, just knock that off the board. I'm going to go Caleb Johnson. I like Caleb Johnson a lot. I don't even who are the running backs left. Let's see. Yeah, I think Caleb Johnson, he's like kind of the last guy in that like truly elite prospect tier. I think the rest of these guys can still be pretty good, especially I think all 4 of these guys I like a lot. I've seen some RJ Harvey hype in the last week as well. I got to think a little bit more on that. I personally am not totally hip myself, so I gotta do my own research. But I think Caleb Johnson's the guy here. You got to take him. You got to knock out that tier, and then again, that gives you the freedom to do whatever you want. Let's go wide receiver. I'm gonna go Egbuka. I like how it ends up. I kind of like him just ending up in almost like a Ladd McConkey spot. where, I mean, I don't know exactly where that would be at the end of the draft, or, I don't know if it'll be the end of the first round, or maybe early in the second. I'm not totally putting the teams together. I'd have to look at the actual NFL draft board. Mike Bowen, where you got Ibuka going? You still in here? But I do think that he's a guy that he's going to end up in a pretty solid spot, especially if he has an immediate path to, a decent bit of a target share. I think that he's going to be pretty interesting to go after. And I mean, that's a guy that he's played in, so many different wide receiver rooms in his 4 years at Ohio State. Just being the like all-time leading receiver at arguably the best wide receiver school we've seen in, I don't know, at least this century. That means something to me. And, I could see him ending up being, kind of like a JSN trajectory where, maybe it doesn't totally click in year one, but once he gets that opportunity, starts getting used correctly, I do think that's a guy that's going to be very interesting. I think that Ibuka should be the next pick here. Then it gets interesting, right? I mean, I'm not gonna say tight end here. I know I got my cursor floating over that name right now. That's just where it ended up. I think that McMorrow. I think he can wait on the quarterback, especially with how it pairs out, right? I mean, I could see Bowen being interested in the quarterback here. I don't think that Two Pins is going to be interested in the quarterback here. He's already got 3 on his team. So unless they trade one away, then I don't really see that happening. So I think that's where the strategy comes back into play. I'm going to go receiver again. I'm going to go Trey Harris, though. I like Trey Harris. Trey Harris is a guy that I'm a big fan of. I think that he's going to go in that early to mid second round. And, it just gives me the vibes of, like when DK and AJ Brown, where they went in the second round and all that. But also, remember when it was Jefferson and then it was Chase. So then when Terrace Marshall Jr. was coming out, everybody really wanted a piece of him because it's, oh my God, it's the next LSU wide receiver. And then he stunk. But then Brian Thomas comes back and he was unbelievable. And we were like right back on track with those LSU receivers. It feels like, how they say like baldness skips a generation or something. Maybe that's kind of what happens with some of these SEC receivers, or maybe just these schools with the high pedigrees in general. But, everybody wanted that Jonathan Mingo. Is there another Ole Miss receiver too after AJ Brown and DK Metcalf? Is there another guy besides Jonathan Mingo? Mingo, he was the Panther, right? Wasn't that the guy that I don't know. Chat, if you know, if I'm talking about somebody else and you know it, just let me know. But I think, but at least Mingo, right? Wasn't that who Steve Smith like handpicked for the Panthers? Anyways, he fucking stunk. So I feel like maybe it's another one of those, right? So we had the 2 elite guys come from the school, skip a generation. Now all of a sudden we're back. I think Trey Harris is unbelievable. I think he's a downfield threat, big body guy, great athlete. I'm a little bit more interested in him. I think that he's got the higher ceiling, especially as a potential X receiver. So I think that that's what McMorrow should do right there. Then we get to Bowen at the end of the first round. I'll say, I'll pull back the curtain a little bit. I hope I'm not, telling tales out of school or anything. But Bowen has said that if Shedeur is there for him at 12, he'd definitely be interested. I warned him. I said it felt like the Kenny Pickett thing all over again. To be fair, I went back and I looked at that draft, and really, I mean, the only miss that came, from that Kenny Pickett pick, which of course, Bowen will say he traded, he got Brock Purdy, won him a championship, and I agree, right? I mean, that's all's forgiven on my end from that standpoint. But the only miss that he really had was right after that was George Pickens. And, you can feel some type of way about him if you think that he's going to, stay with the Steelers. They might be sick of him. It could just be like a bad attitude guy, or, maybe he, cleans it up and really starts to put it together. But after that, I mean, you can go through like the whole second round and like there's really not a single guy where it's like, oh, you could have had him instead of Kenny Pickett. It's not really until the third round where at that point it's like negligible. I wouldn't lose sleep over the fact that you took a quarterback at 10. So it was really like the first 9 picks of that draft were pretty much all hits. And then all of a sudden it's Kenny Pickett, then George Pickens, and then kind of a bunch of irrelevance when it comes to fantasy football. So, I really can't shred that pick too hard, but I'm not big on Shedeur. And I said it, and I've kind of been, talking my shit on Twitter as well, but, people will say, because people can never just be like, yeah, okay, he's like a fine athlete, but he really can't run. It's, oh, he's not an athlete. Well, what about this 4-minute video of him running? And if you watch it, I mean, first of all, it's from all 4 of his college seasons, right? 2 at Jackson State, 2 at Colorado, and it's 4 minutes, and almost none of the clips come from, the same game. So it's like, okay, he had like a big run in every game. Like, whatever. He had negative rushing yards. That means that he was just taking sacks. Any good rushing quarterback in college has positive rushing yards, and usually by a pretty significant amount. So, if they have negative or like 100, don't call him a running quarterback. Okay, the guy can run a tiny bit, but I don't think that's the pick. I think Bowen, he needs a tight end. I think especially if Loveland goes to the Chargers, that's going to be something you can't resist. But regardless, Loveland's going to be a first-round pick. I would much rather value him over any of these quarterbacks. I don't think that he really needs a receiver like Luther right now. So I'm going to go Loveland. Okay. Moving on to the second round. We got 2 pins. What do they need? They need running back pretty bad. They're okay. And wide receiver. Yeah, they could use a receiver. Oh, that's tough. That's tough. I'm gonna go Golden. Golden feels like a guy that they'd take. I feel like they're almost like the Raiders. Guys fast, they're gonna take him. A guy gets those types of headlines. I feel like 2 pins. I feel like they could be into that. So I'm gonna go Matthew Golden here. Personally, I'm not huge on it. I kind of get AD Mitchell vibes. If you guys remember, I did not rank AD Mitchell too highly last year. I had him somewhere, he was like close to 20, and then I moved him up because of draft capital and all that stuff. But when you look at the box score, right? When you watch the highlights are great. But you look at the box score, and he doesn't have that many crazy games. And that was the thing with AD Mitchell. When you watch the highlights, you'd think, oh, this guy must be putting up like 100 yards and a touchdown every week. And then you see he had like more games of under like 50 yards than he did, above it and things like that. And Golden kind of just feels the same to me, where the actual tape in the box score doesn't really match the highlights. And maybe he could figure it out if he ends up in a perfect position. But I'm not crazy about Matthew Golden just because he's fast. The guys that rise because of a combine performance and not because of what they were actually doing on the field, they just don't do it for me as much. So, I'm not high on him, but I could see 2 pins going with a guy like that, with that type of speed, especially ends up being a first-round pick or an early second rounder. So, all right, let's move on to McMorrow now. Let me look at this roster now. First of all, that right there is pretty damn good. If he walked in with that as his starting lineup, which is basically what he's going to be doing, plus Bucky Irving, it's pretty damn good, if you ask me. In this scenario, if this were the starting lineup, you'd have Bucky and Josh Downs on the bench. It's pretty fucking good. Anyways, let's go McMorrow. Who do we got him taking? What does he pick again? I'll go quarterback here. Address that team need. I'm going to go Jackson Dart, though. Dart, he feels like the Steelers guy. Feels like he's being connected to that. Maybe he's not starting right away, but he's the one that's getting, more of the positive buzz. I'm not totally sure, and I'm not sold on Shedeur being, first of all, a top 3 pick. And I feel like if he's not a top 3 pick, then I feel like he could slide a good bit. But again, I'm kind of projecting myself here as well. I'm a little bit higher on Dart. I don't love either one, but I think if we're going team need, I feel like Dart by draft day. By the way, we're less than a month to the NFL draft. We're about 5 weeks away from the rookie draft itself. So, I saw Simcoe making his comment about the trade market being dead. It happens, right? It's 52 weeks in a year. We are out of the season right now. As far, I guess we're not. We're in season. We did officially start the league year, but we're about as far from the season as you can be. In the secular rotation of it all. So, it happens. It happens. I think that things are going to start to heat up in the next month, leading up to that draft. So we'll see. I guess that we're kind of relying on McMorrow to get that shaken if he wants to trade any of these picks. I don't think he should. But all right, now we're on Amaral. He needs receiver. He could still use running back. I guess he could go quarterback if he wants, right? Who are his quarterbacks? He's got Baker, and he's got, who's the other one? Does he have two? He's got Tua? Yeah, he's got Baker. He's got Tua. Rudolph is like technically the starter in Pittsburgh right now. Rattler, it's kind of like conflicting reports. I mean, of course, people are just acting like Derek Carr isn't currently on that roster. We'll see if he gets like cut or bought out or anything. But I would assume that Derek Carr is a starter until he's not on that team anymore. But it does, I've also seen reports that Rattler has like fans in the building, but also you got a new head coach. You might want to go out and get his guy. So we'll see how that plays out. But he could kind of use a little bit of everything. He's picking twice in a row here. Let's see. What do we got for running backs? What do we got for wide receivers? Am I missing something? Where's Higgins at? I'm not trying to take him right now, but am I blind? I didn't take him, did I? No. Oh, there he is. Okay. Higgins, that's a guy, first of all, I saw somebody compare him to Nico Collins, and then Matt Harmon put out his reception perception. He basically gets separation on like 0% of his routes. So, we'll see how that plays out. But, that's a guy that, on the outside, he could be a little out of position. He might be, more of like a big slot guy, which it's not necessarily a bad thing, especially in fantasy. But I don't know. Should we go running back? Should we go receiver? I mean, I think this is kind of like a two for here where it's like, you could go. Does he go quarterback? The thing is, I don't know how Aaron feels about Shedeur. And I should know that because I've definitely talked to him before. But fuck it, I'm going to go Shedeur here. I think Baker's great. That's the guy that's going to be like, on the outside looking in for the MVP, but he's always going to get like 1 or 2 votes anyways. Tua, you can't rely on that health. And then after that, he doesn't really have like an actual starting quarterback. So Shedeur, it feels like wherever he goes, he's going to step in and be the starter day one. Or at least compete for that. So, that could totally change if Amaril's not a Shedeur guy. He's either very much a Shedeur guy or very much not. I don't think there's any indifference there or any fence sitting. So I got to find that out from my own personal record. We'll see this week when it comes to our rookie rankings. But I'm going to go Shedeur there. And then I think following it up with that, we'll go Luther. I think that he can only fall so far. Amaral, he does need a little bit of both running back and wide receiver. But, like I was talking about the last of that really big tier when it came to running back, I feel like Luther is kind of the checkpoint when we go from, kind of those fringe first round guys to, all of a sudden the other guys that may or may not be good. So, I think if you're going to go receiver there, I think it's going to be Luther. That could always change based on the NFL draft. But as of right now, that's kind of where it stands for me. Now we're back to McMorrow. Again, he can kind of do whatever he wants. I think he should go quarterback here. I think he should go Milroe. Right? We saw how Jalen Hurts, he was like a late second rounder in his rookie draft with our league, but he was a second round pick. Milroe, I think, is a guy that is being slept on a little bit, right? We know he can run. He was able to play well at Alabama. Last year was a little wonky. I'm just not sure that Kellen DeBoer is like built to, coach in the SEC and let alone at Bama. Of all places. So, that could be one of those short-lived stints. But, when he was playing with Saban, I mean, he stepped up and he really broke out and he proved himself. And, he just seems like he's a hard worker. It seems like he grinds. He's jacked. But, I definitely do see a little bit of that Jalen Hurts trajectory in him where, as a dual threat guy, he can sling it a little bit. He has balls when he plays. I think that all that kind of goes a really long way. So I think Milroe's a guy that's worth investing in, especially here where McMorrow has addressed so many needs already. He's kind of stacking depth no matter what position he picks at this point. I think Milroe's the pick there, especially with all the other quarterbacks off the board. Ewers, I'm really not too interested in right now. I do not see him going in the second round as it stands. But okay, moving on to Frank. We got 2 of the next 3 picks going to Frank. Let me pull that Frank roster up. Where's he at? Okay. Yeah, see, the quarterbacks, he's in a fine spot right now. Oh, wide receiver. Jesus Christ. Pickens. Interesting, a little shaky pizza there. Shaheed was unbelievable. He's coming back from the ACL. Khalil Shakir is very great. I do question how high his ceiling is, but at the same time, he's one of those guys that can kind of fall ass backwards into like a top 10 season and maybe even top five if he just gets peppered with these targets from Josh Allen. I'm seeing these rumors about Chris Olave or Jordan Addison getting traded to Buffalo. If Addison does follow that Stephon Diggs track and he ends up going to Buffalo like that, I'm gonna be walking around with some white stuff leaking out of my penis. So whatever, I'm going to be kind of praying for that to happen. But I do like him in Minnesota, even though he's going to be always competing with Justin Jefferson for those targets. So it's kind of a win-win for me either way. But I'm looking at it. I mean, running back, he definitely needs it pretty bad. I'm going to go Higgins to Frank here. I was just shitting on Higgins and talking about his profile and how he projects as a pro. I think Matt Harmon made the comparison to him as like a Keon Coleman type guy where he could step in and still be a halfway decent rookie with, room to grow. But you do wonder exactly, how high his skill set can actually take him. Just because he can be a good NFL receiver doesn't mean it's going to be a great fantasy receiver. And, if you're putting up 800, 900 yards and 6 touchdowns, that's a really good professional year, but fantasy wise, it doesn't always do us the most good. But I think Frank's pretty into Higgins a little bit, especially if Higgins does end up being like a Pats guy or something like that. I could see him trying to go after that. But all right, back to Amaral. What did I just say? Okay, you took wide receiver. I think he needs running back here. I'm gonna go Dylan Sampson. I'm a Dylan Sampson guy. I think he's really good. I saw people disparaging Jalen Wright. First of all, Jalen Wright was the better prospect. And, I know that we've gotten into that debate before, but, about what does better prospect exactly mean. But he actually was. I mean, he was just more productive with his touches when he was sharing a backfield with Sampson. He actually dominated those touches in terms of the share of the pie. Sampson, his overall stats last year when he took over were much better, but per touch, they were not. He just got way more volume. That's because the rest of their backfield stunk. But Jalen Wright was beating him out 4 touches, and he was doing more with his touches than Sampson was when they were sharing the rock. So, he also was more athletic at the combine. He had a higher score, like all that stuff. So, just because Jalen Wright was not doing too much behind Devin Achane last year in like a pretty broken Dolphins offense, let's not stop acting like he was a shit prospect or anything. But at the same time, I was high on Jalen Wright. I'm high on Sampson as well. That's a guy that I'm going to rank pretty high. I mean, I guess right now when we're talking about top 5 running backs, it's going to be these 5 guys. So when we do that episode, we're giving our rankings. It's going to be more of how do you rank them in order. But Sampson, he's definitely the next guy up for me. I think that should be the pick. Moving on to Frank. He does need a running back here. I do know for a fact that he loves Cam Scatabo. So that was pretty easy for me. We're going to go Scatabo. Now we're on to the Cucks for the last 3 of the last 4 picks in this round. The fuck do they need? What do the Cucks need? Quarterback, they're fine. Wide receiver, I'd say they're fine. Running back, they could definitely get younger. Tight end, they need a tight end bad. What are we looking at? I'm going to go Fannin. I'm going to go Fannin for the tight end. I've talked about it. I think I said it on the last mock that I did. I do worry about how long it'll take him to figure it out. I do think that there is a fine chance that the floor just opens up underneath him and he completely falls out. But I do view him as like an Isaiah Likely type prospect. First of all, he did dominate against Penn State, and then I believe it was Texas A&M. Maybe it was Texas Tech, but it was one of those Texas but non-Longhorn teams. He dominated when he played actual competition. So you can't just say, oh, he was really good in the MAC. What about it? He was the best tight end, in my opinion, in the country last year. That doesn't mean that he's the prospect that Tyler Warren or Colson Loveland are, but statistically, he was by far the best. So, you can't ignore that. But yeah, it could be something where maybe he goes to a team where he's not necessarily the starter right away. If he goes to a team like Philly, then, he might have to sit behind Dallas Goedert for a minute because Goddard is still, plenty fine. Or say he goes to a place like Kansas City and he's the heir apparent to Travis Kelce. It might take a second. But I do think that it's worth waiting on, especially when you're talking about a guy this late in the draft. So I think Fannin is definitely the tight end 3 here. I like him a lot. I like the opportunities. We're seeing what Likely has shown. He hasn't totally broken out himself as far as being like a consistent starting option, but the more that Baltimore works Likely in, the better and better he looks, and the more points he continues to put up. So I think that Fannin is, to me, he projects exactly like that. So if you told me, hey, you're going to get Isaiah Likely in the 9th pick of the 2nd round, I think that that's an absolute no-brainer for a pick there. Moving on. Let's see, what do we? I feel like they got to go running back here. They're okay at wide receiver, right? They got A.J. Brown. They got Terry McLaurin. Devontae Adams, I think, is going to be unbelievable this year. Sutton was great last year. We'll see if that can continue. Debo. And that's kind of it. I mean, but that's 5 guys right there. I'm not seeing a wide receiver on the board right now that I feel like you absolutely have to go after. I'm going to go Devin Neal. You got Johnny Simcoe on the team. Ryan Simcoe, Kansas guy. Devin Neal, I think, is very good. He's put up some unbelievable stats. So I'm going to make that connection there. I think they're going to go Devin Neal. They're going to get a little bit younger at running back. We'll see how McCaffrey is coming back from that injury. And he keeps saying that he's going to be fine, but he was saying that he was totally fucking fine last year when we were asking if he was going to start week 1, and then obviously he didn't. Then he came back and got hurt almost immediately again. So we will see how that plays out. James Conner, of course, fantastic when he plays, but he can get hurt. And then after that, we're looking at Mostert, Jones, Eckler, Chubb isn't even on a team right now. Jordan Mason could be interesting in Minnesota. We'll see how that plays out if he's able to become their starter, especially for the future when Aaron Jones eventually ages out. But all right, now we're moving on to the reigning champs, Team Slippery Pete. I see in the chat he's saying best available. Let me open up. I guess I could just go with that all. Who's it going to be, though? Who is the best available? That's kind of the thing. I don't know if there's like a consensus best available right here. Chat, maybe you can help me out. But right now, I think just for the sake of it, I kind of want to go Isaiah Bond just because like the Longhorn thing, the whole Longhorn Club bit. Ollie Gordon, he's a drunk driver. Maybe he's interested in that. You could, maybe relate on that level. You do have Quinn Ewers as a Longhorn as well. These receivers are interesting. Who's the receiver I'm thinking of? Who's the guy? Mike Bowen, are you here? Who's the guy that people are talking about? Washington State wide receiver. I feel like they're pretty behind on this stuff right here. Am I blind? He's absolutely not on this list. Let me look this up. Kyle Williams. That's who I'm thinking of, right? Kyle Williams. There he is right there. That's not who I'm taking right now. I just had him on my mind. All right, I'm going to go Isaiah Bond, Longhorn Club, all that stuff. Again, take it easy on Isaiah Bond. Okay, the guy said that he was going to run like a 4.19. That was always ridiculous. That was always hyperbole. He was just saying that he's going to run a fast 40. He's talking shit to Xavier Worthy. That is a Texas Longhorn right there. It's friendly competition. He's saying that he was going to break his record. He did not actually expect to run a fucking 4.19. And people are like, oh, he only ran a 4.38. We're talking about only. I think it even might have been better, like a 4.35. And I've seen people say, oh, well, that's basically a 4.4. What are we talking about? Everybody knows that when you're talking about a player's 40 time, you disregard the second number after the decimal. It's whatever it's that 4 point whatever. That's what you call it. 4.3, 4.2. Nobody's saying, oh, Xavier Worthy ran a 4.24. That's basically a 4.3. No. You don't round up. Okay. You disregard that final digit. He ran a 4.340. And people are talking about it like he's slow because he was projecting a 4.19. You guys are fucking idiots. Like, what the fuck are we talking about? All right. Final pick. The Cucks. I'm going to go Kyle Williams. Now I got to fucking look for him again. Jesus Christ. I'm going to go Kyle Williams here. That's a guy that he's shooting up these boards. Chris Sims, I think he ranked him as the second. I think that's Chris Sims' wide receiver 2 in this draft class. People are shitting on Chris Sims for his wide receiver rankings last year. He ends up looking like a genius. I believe he went Neighbors, Thomas, Marvin Harrison, Rome, and then Roman Wilson. And 1, people are shitting on it. 2, he also tiered them, and he gave the name to tiers. And just to pat myself on the back, it kind of checked out with what I was saying last year when I was tiering my guys as well, where Thomas and Neighbors, they had the explosiveness that Marvin Harrison doesn't have, and that just inherently gives them a larger or a higher ceiling than Marvin might have. But at the same time, Marv had so much value from the fact that he feels bust proof. And I know that he had a little bit of a disappointing year, and he was overdrafted in a lot of redraft leagues, and he definitely underperformed compared to that. But I thought he looked great last year. Okay, just because he had a few dud games and everything, it doesn't concern me. I still stand by that. I think that Marvin Harrison is bust proof. And then, he ranked Roma Dunze and Roman Wilson as guys that just like have the tools and they can be these wide receiver ones. Roman Wilson hurt his ankle in camp last year, basically didn't play at all. I actually don't think he played a single snap. So, the jury's still out on him. It's usually not good when you miss a whole rookie year like that. And, even if it's, for a good reason, but, we'll see how that goes. And then Rome, I just think that Caleb Williams wants Rome to be a thing no matter what. And, the two of them, they may or may not be dating. But Caleb was like obsessed with the fact that they were both top 10 picks in the same draft class, the same team. Everybody with a brain knew that he was going to force a touchdown to Rome when they played in London because he probably thought that was some creative shit there. Yeah, I mean, I think Rome's going to be fine as well. But I do think that those Chris Sims rankings, they were pretty much perfect. They were spot on for that top 4. He had Roman Wilson as the 5th guy. He overlooked Ladd McConkey, who I was high on. He overlooked Ricky Pearsall, who looked really good when he came back from getting shot, and Xavier Worthy, who was unbelievable, especially later as the season progressed more and more. But yeah, he has Kyle Williams as wide receiver too. Sounds like he had a really good Senior Bowl, and I don't know what he did at the combine, but ever since then he's been quickly on the rise. So. Especially if he ends up in a pretty favorable position. And I know that the Pats are bringing him in. I would love to see him come in and, maybe be a Patriot. But, yeah, I feel like that's where the Cucks might go. There's nobody that's jumping off the page to me right now that it's like they have to take him. So it could be up for debate a little bit. I do like Restrepo. I don't care about that 40 time. I do think that he's pretty good. I like guys that are gamers. He's a guy that he can go out, he can play, he wants the ball, he wants to get that first down. So, anyways, let me stop sharing my screen. That is the end of the Benny Fazio mock draft 3.0. As I have said, we're going to have Frank, we're going to have Amaral on sometime this week. I think we're looking at either tomorrow night or Wednesday night, whatever works best for those two gentlemen. But we're going to do our top 5 rookie rankings at each position. That's quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. And then I think I want to have us all just give one doesn't necessarily have to be a dark horse, but an honorable mention. That could be the 6th guy on your list. That could be a guy that you think is going to be a 3rd-round rookie pick that you think might break out, and that would be the dark horse aspect there. But more of just like a flag plant guy. Who is a guy that you want to put the rest of the league on notice with? That doesn't necessarily make your top 5, but I'm looking forward to that. Get a little difference of opinion. I want to talk some Patriots with those guys as well. But that's all I've got. I guess maybe I could submit I'll put the picture in the chat tomorrow, maybe give everybody a chance to watch this. I don't want to spoil it too much for them first. Try and get those views up. But all right, thank you for tuning in. I will see you guys sometime this week. And we're going to go live with them as well. I'm done with the edited videos, the pre-record. It's a pain in the ass. It's way easier to just do these live videos. But thank you, Easy Peasy. Thank you, Sundog Multimedia. And we will see you on the next episode.